Marcellus Shale and the Utica Shale that lies even deeper underground hold the promise of energy independence for America and perhaps reindustrialization for our region. The opportunity to attract industries that will use the gas for fuel and as a feedstock. What's it going to take to make that happen? Not just the capital and the technology, but the policy too. Matt Pittzarella is back with us. He's Director of Public Affairs for Range Resources, as we noted in our first segment, the company that discovered the gas in the Marcellus Shale. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, a lot of technological issues and everything else, but we'll stick to the policy. We just heard of the perspective of Penn Future and kind of what they see as a framework to deal with this issue, and it sounds like they're really trying to at least frame the issue in a way that people can compromise.
Right. This is all about having a dialogue. And when you have two extreme sides, whether that be those who outright oppose the industry or those in the industry that think we should be able to do whatever we want, which is a small portion of it, you know, it's always someplace in the middle, and it's about having that dialogue. And what we find, you know, Range, our company, this is one company's perspective, is we've met with virtually every conservation, sportsman's group, environmental group, as well as the academic world. And what we find is we agree on probably 90% of those issues. You know, the devil's really in the details, though. You know, and I did have an opportunity to hear some of Jan's perspective. They've published a lot of those things, and there's always going to be differences that we have. But at the end of the day, we agree on a lot of them. And what we have here is probably, when it's all said and done, the biggest natural gas known deposit in the world. So if you think about that, Bill, this is, you know, could be one of the largest energy discoveries in the history of modern man. With that's going to come challenges. And what's important is that we put the right framework. So if you got this world-class resource, you need a world-class framework. So not only do we need to find the right policies, how do you do it the right way from a best practices, from a policy perspective, from a taxation perspective, but then what do you do with all the gas? We can send it around to the rest of the country, or we can use it to fuel our fleets and factories and generate more of our electricity. You know, all those things are going to bring with it additional benefits. So all we're advocating for is let's have more of that dialogue.
Yeah, well, and you know, Jan obviously expressed his concerns, and the Pennsylvania regulations have been toughened up in recent years, and they have been modernized in many respects. Are they where they need to be, both from an environmental standpoint, as well as from what the industry needs to be able to effectively, you know, bring the resource to market?
I don't think we're ever going to be there, you know, because this is, you know, we use really state-of-the-art technology, and there's, you know, it's an industry that is dominated by engineers and scientists, and they're always going to try to find better ways to do things. So rather than put in some policy today and say this is the law of the land, let's have policies that adapt with the technology. And one good example that I'll give you is a few years ago everybody would have said this whole industry must use a certain type of water treatment for the wastewater, which is what a lot of folks had advocated for. But had we done that, we would have never innovated the recycling efforts that we're undertaking now. You know, our company, we really only started doing that in 2009, and now more than 90% of the water we use is fully recycled. So what we're saying is, yeah, Pennsylvania has probably the most stringent and strict regulatory program in the nation, but you can always do better. If the policy is right, if we don't have incidents, if we don't have accidents, if we don't have mistakes, we will be more prosperous as an industry, and we understand that. But things that are important to point out is an independent review panel called Stronger did an analysis of Pennsylvania's regulatory program. That's made up of state regulators, academics, industry types, as well as environmental organizations. And what they found was that Pennsylvania has among the strongest regs in the United States. We have more inspectors per rig than anywhere else in the country. They're out there almost every day, whether it's a scheduled inspection or a random inspection. You know, all that stuff sounds good though, but what we need is the combination of good policy, and then we need appropriate behavior. We need a culture of excellence within the industry, and that only happens through discussion. You know, we need to talk to the Jan Jarretts of the world and understand their perspective, and talk to the Trout Unlimiteds of the world and hear where they're coming from. And if we do that, Bill, we're going to find, again, we agree on most of the issues, and if we do it together, then everyone's going to benefit.
Two issues I want to make sure we hit on with the last minute we have. One is the whole idea of the tax on the shale gas, and the second is the state forest lands, because Jan put both those on the table. First, Governor Corbett says tax off the table.
Right. Well, you know, I think that there's still, that's good. you know, the governor ran on a policy of let's grow this business, let's create jobs, let's create wealth. We already paid about $700 million in taxes last year.
As an industry.
As an industry as a whole, correct. There's also discussion of do we have an impact fee. The Senate and the House have both been very strong around let's creating jobs. But, you know, this is a discussion and a dialogue, and I'm sure that that issue will continue to evolve in time. Our perspective on things is let's be competitive. If there should be a tax, which right now the governor is saying no, make it competitive with the rest of the country and make sure that those revenues go to the right places. The issue of the state forest, that is no different than any other owner of those minerals. That is up to the people who own it, and that is owned by the taxpayers. Taxpayers elect policymakers in Harrisburg to make those decisions. We don't take a position one way or another. There's a ton of land that's out there to drill and to lease. Pennsylvania is now a net natural gas exporter, so there's going to be a lot of other opportunities. Clearly there are billions of dollars that the state will eventually receive from that, but that, again, that's their decision. We don't advocate one way or another.
All right, well, let's hope there's a reasonable enough conversation in Harrisburg over the next several months to find a way to make this turn out the best for everybody it can in Pennsylvania.
Well, let's hope so. I'm sure it'll be entertaining if nothing else, Bill.
If nothing else. Matt Pittzarella from Range Resources. Thanks so much. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And we'll be back in a minute with a little dollars and cents. Stay with us.